This episode is brought to you by the Arvada Center. The Broadway smash hit, The Waitress. Wait, is it The Waitress or Waitress? Waitress. Waitress is showing. The Broadway smash hit Waitress the Musical comes to the Arvada Center this fall. This sweet, sassy, feminist musical rom-com tells the story of a small-town pie maker who never gives up on her dreams. This is a show about celebrating friendship, chosen family, and the joys of a good pie. Waitress is showing August 30th through October 13th. Tickets are on sale now at arvadacenter.org. That's arvadacenter.org. Waitress the Musical. This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This summer, don't go alone. Try carpooling and combining trips, or take transit to get where you need to go to reduce ground-level ozone. Ozone is the Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems, and it's created from pollutants like car exhaust. Want to know when it matters to take these simple steps for better air? Sign up for summer ozone text alerts by sending Better Air CO to 21000 or visit simplestepsbetterair.org. Today on CityCast Denver, the little suburb of Lakeside was hit with a big scandal last week involving hot cop cars and some good old-fashioned nepotism. So me and Bree are talking about the small-town bureaucracy behind the amusement park. Plus, a city council person's new proposal to get Lime and Lyft to finally take responsibility for the people riding their scooters on the sidewalk. And stick around for a sponsored segment about a very cool, very free transportation equity and mobility justice event coming to Denver this fall. Today is Tuesday, August 6th. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about.
So, Paul, you were at First Friday, and you saw something that I don't want to say caught your eye, but seemed new to the street.
I've been thinking about it ever since.
Okay.
I can't get it out of my head. I can't make sense of it, how this happened and why. And also, Westward editor Patty Calhoun is here with us, joining us. Patty, I can't wait to hear what you think about this. So yeah, First Friday, they had the street shut down. It was beautiful, so crowded. It was like the best one of the year. And then my wife and I get to the very southern end of it, the very last booth, and there's some women working the booth with very short skirts, half their butts hanging out, and just kids wandering around in the street. It's a booth from PT's Show Club, the strip club. Have you ever seen that before?
Never seen it, heard about it, and have a theory about it.
Tell me your theory.
Tell me, because I was
dying.
like, I'm going to call my art district insider later and find out what she knows.
Well, PT's has a new owner. So the strip clubs in Denver were bought a year or two ago by a new owner. If I'm right, it's RCL or
RCI Holdings.
RCI
I know
Holdings.
this guy. This is
Okay.
the guy behind Bombshells, the World
Is
War
it the
II themed
Bombshells
strip
guy?
club.
And so
Okay.
Bombshells is opening on 14th. It's going to go where Ocean Air was. So they're going to have a restaurant there. They also have a lot of property in Central City where they wanted to open get a gaming license. And frankly, why not? I mean,
Central City.
Yeah, it's a publicly traded company. There's plenty of information on them. It's Central City. It's not like all the other casinos in the world are religious orders. I mean, there's really no difference to me, but they didn't get it. I mean, the state, it was very strange how much money the state wanted them to pay for an investigation, much more than they've asked other companies. So now they're they want to get a strip club license in Central City. So I consider this kind of we are members of the community
Which
gambit.
is fair.
Well, yeah,
Which is
why
fair.
not?
They are.
It is an art form. I gotta respect that, but
I mean,
it's a family event.
yeah,
also.
yeah. I was like, I'm all in support of sex workers of all stripes. I would also maybe be a little thrown by that if I was walking down First Friday.
Yeah.
It's not like it'd be different to me if you were like in Lodo late at night at or in Rhino or whatever, when an adults oriented event, maybe it'd be different, but this feels like it's clearly for families.
Oh yeah. No one was approaching them. Also, the women were
Because how-
dancing with
what do you-
each other.
Well, also, what are you going to walk up and be like, hey, hi.
You got any deals going on? How's the
Yeah.
lunch buffet?
Remember, it is an art district. So I guess it's the special stripping art they were showing. But visually, it's not like your normal gallery show.
Yeah.
There
yeah.
was one lady across the street just sort of just standing alone, just watching. just ogling, or just, cockeyed. I don't know what she was thinking, but there was one person taking in the show.
Was there someone there to like hand out coupons or anything?
No.
See,
it
that's
was just
where they're missing the
t-shirts and short skirts.
Interesting.
And the cool thing
Club
about
music.
the PT's building on West Evans is that was the
Oh,
old
that's the family dog. Yeah.
It was the legendary rock club that lasted, 18 months in the late
But it was-
60s that Barry Fay opened.
And wasn't it Barry Fay's son, the mayor of Central City?
Yes,
who just
he is.
How about that?
The world is small. We did a show on the family dog many moons ago. We can
Right.
share that if people want to know more about it. But yeah, because I was trying when Paul was telling me this, I was like, where is PT's even in proximity to Santa Fe? Not on that end, really. I mean, it's a little bit of a drive,
But
but
it's definitely not part of the district. Let's
yeah,
just say
that's
that.
true.
Yeah.
Maybe they bought some. I don't know. Maybe they're the new tenants under the Art District flats. We don't know.
Perhaps.
Oh, that's a good question.
We've got to get into some more pressing news here, but we have some business first. You all should know CityCast Denver is a member-supported podcast, and becoming a member is the best way you can ensure we get to keep providing a daily podcast for you about all things Denver, connect you to the city the way we do. We love our members. In fact, we love them so much, we have a very new thing that we're happy to offer. It's a brand new perk. This week is the first week, but then every Monday starting yesterday, our newsletter list is going to get members only events email. And so it's a curated list of events on Mondays for the whole week. Normally we just have in our newsletter for the next day, but if you want them early so you can plan your week, you can sign up to become a member today and get, a little bit more time back for you. So that's our new member perk. Join CityCast Denver as a member today at membership.citycast.fm. Links are in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by Incogni, because data brokers are collecting and selling your personal information every day. I'm talking about your social security number, your address, health and financial records, and everything else they can get their hands on, and they're selling it to the highest bidder. Scammers, total strangers, insurance companies, banks, businesses, and even the government are using your personal information to target you. So it's time to check out Incogni. That's INCOGNI. Incogni scrubs your personal info from the web. Simple as that. Incogni takes only 3 minutes to set up, tackles more than 180 data brokers and people search sites, and they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your data, your time, and your sanity. Get Incogni today and never look back. Use the code CityCast for 55% off the annual plan at incogni.com. That's INCOGNI.com.
This episode is brought to you by Pine Melon, the farmer's market delivered. Miss the farmer's market this weekend? Don't fret. Pine Melon has got you covered, delivering Colorado's freshest local produce straight to your doorstep. Pine Melon is a next-generation grocery delivery app that partners with over 200 local farmers, ranchers, and producers in Colorado. With a mission to transform Denver's food system, empower local makers, and promote community well-being, they make supporting local both easy and rewarding. Enjoy high-quality meats, eggs, and dairy from small local farms, as well as a wide variety of pantry staples, all delivered straight to you. The best part? Pine Melon offers same-day delivery to Denver and Boulder within a 2-hour window. No subscription necessary. Support local today and use promo code CityCastDenver for $75 off your first delivery at pinemelon.com. Enjoy the best of the farmer's market, even when you can't make it there yourself.
Let's get to the news. We got a really fun story, and I can't wait to hear what you two think about this specifically. Two real Lakeside aficionados.
I'm always nervous when it is in the news, though, because it's usually not.
It's not great.
Great if
Ride
it's in the news.
busted.
Yeah,
And in this case,
ride
police
shut
scandal.
down by the state.
Yeah. So we got a police scandal here. So this is a tiny adjacent town. It's not technically Denver. If you don't know that, Lakeside is this historic place. It's the home of the Lakeside Amusement Park, but also a Walmart, really not much else. And there's a scandal going on with the cops. Patty, can you give us like the top line? What's going on?
Well, the police chief, now former police chief of Lakeside, has been on the city payroll for, I think,
Since
over
the
4
60s?
decades. Since the 60s. He most recently was the fire chief and the mayor and the police chief. He was, after April, he was only the police chief. His daughter has been the town clerk, and they had a deal, according to the indictment from Jefferson and Gilpin County grand jury, that they were involved in this car flipping scheme where used cop cars are made available to other police departments at a discount on the assumption that they will use them for police work and they need the deal. So Lakeside has been buying these used police vehicles that were supposed to be for the police force, but instead the town clerk allegedly was flipping them for much more money than the town paid for them, and then pocketing the money with her father's approval. So that is the indictment that came down last month. The town trustees fired them both last week. And it's an ugly twist. And the funny thing about Lakeside, and Bree knows the history too, it grew out of the City Beautiful movement, and it was supposed to be, everyone liked going to amusement parks, which were fantasy places over a century ago. It was called the White City originally, Lakeside. And they incorporated before they opened Lakeside in 1908 because they wanted to sell beer on Sunday. And Denver didn't allow you to sell beer on Sunday. And Zhang was one of the developers.
I was going to say, Zhang
and
was a
Mayor
developer.
Robert Spear. So Zhang wanted to sell beer, so that's why Lakeside's incorporated. And it has 17 residents today. Its height was like 100
Which
back
is
in
like, where do they
1910.
live?
Because
there are little
one
houses.
strip of houses.
Yes.
There's that strip of houses on Sheridan, but if you guys have driven by there any time recently, they don't look inhabited at all. So
Well, there's
interesting.
one more resident than there's 16 people on the police force because you have all of Lakeside to patrol and you've got the shopping center. So 16 full and part-time, maybe 15 with the police chief gone.
And that Walmart, I remember I did a story about Lakeside back in like 2016, 2017. And I remember I talked to Robert Gordonier about the Walmart because I had noticed in the crime trends that after the Walmart was built, crime in Lakeside spiked like crazy. And he was like, yeah, it's my whole job patrolling Walmart. But in that moment, I even remembered asking him, and it's crazy.
The scourge of the earth, Walmart.
Well, what else did he have to do?
Truly. Yeah.
Pick up kids that fell off rides?
But I remembered asking him like about this crime stuff, and I was like, so like, what? How does this work? And he revealed it in our conversation. I have this on tape. We might play a clip, but he was like, yeah, I'm also the mayor. I'm the police chief and the mayor. And in the moment, I didn't know that, and I was like, isn't that a conflict of interest? And he said no.
Well, he's going to tell you it's not.
I know, and I never dug into it more, but here we are. It's like there's this scandal with him and his daughter flipping cars, and as soon as I saw that headline, I was just like, oh, of course. Of course that's happening.
The thing I loved about this story is she's clearly like daddy's little girl because she was also she was just driving a police car around, watched someone trying to steal a car, pulled up and was like, I'm going to be a police officer, doesn't stop them, and then doesn't call the actual Lakeside police to let them know that it's happening. And it's like, because she knows her dad will just get her out of it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It was so wild.
He's the mayor/police chief. I mean, he's a classic small town despot.
It's so nuts to me.
Bree, what do you think this means for the park?
I mean, it doesn't look good. If anything, it's like, it reminds me of Lakeside in general. You know this, Patty. Rhoda doesn't like to do interviews. They don't like to be in the press.
She's the owner, Rhoda Krasner.
Rhoda Krasner, yeah. She doesn't like to be in the press because it's often not for good reasons. And also, to be fair to her, it's often framed in certain ways as like, this place is run down. And so I can just see this not being is this a great story? No. So not only are they having issues with their rides, the town itself is corrupt. That's not a great look for Lakeside. I just can't imagine it. It just seems like insult to injury this year in particular.
Well, I want to bring up a very controversial word into this discussion. And Patty, get your take on this. Annexation. What if Denver annexed this place? Is now the time?
Denver cannot. Look back over the Frida Poundstone amendment that Frida Poundstone pushed back in the 70s when people were worried about busing. And so the legislature pushed this amendment where Denver couldn't annex because they didn't want to have busing in the suburbs. And if you were annexing land, you might get bussed under the Supreme Court ruling against Denver about busing.
Someone told me that's why Glendale is also Glendale and not
Glendale's
annexed.
always been, Denver might have looked at it, but since the 70s, Denver hasn't been able to annex anything, which is why we had that big vote when we went to build the airport.
Right.
Because without a vote from Adams County allowing Denver to annex the land, you couldn't have built the airport. So Denver is prohibited by law from annexing anything. Now, we could go to the 17 residents of Lakeside, I guess, and ask if they wanted to be annexed.
Hey, maybe,
But you would have to take it to a vote. Yeah, vote of the people.
Huh. Interesting. Do you think that? I mean, what do you think is going to come out of this scandal? I guess is the real question here.
I think they'll have a new police chief and things will go on as always in this little town of Lakeside because they have a good sales tax coming in. If Rhoda Krasner and her daughter, who does kind of talk to the press these days, if they ever want to sell, I mean, obviously development is going to be very, very interested in that property. You've got the old racetrack. You could still keep the amusement park going and develop some of it.
There's plenty of land around
There's
it.
plenty of land. With 16 people on the police force, presumably someone else can step in. They had a whistleblower who quit the force and was the main source of the information for the grand jury. Maybe they can bring him back.
Oh, wow.
But you've got to think the crime is pretty... It might be very hands-on. You've got to go to Walmart, watch for the shoplifters and things like that. But I don't think we've got the Venezuelan cartel operating at Lakeside. I could be wrong, but I think they will recover from this.
Yeah, it's just a couple corrupt people running a very small town operation.
Flipping police cars is not exactly...
I'm just surprised that this guy has been on the force since like the 60s or whatever. And like, wouldn't you just want to sail into retirement and like have this great legacy? But instead it gets sullied because you were running a cheap car flipping scheme with your kid?
I mean, that's what I'm curious about. Is like, did these other people know about this who lived there? These other residents, and
for sure.
Were they perhaps cool with it? You know,
Or
what are the real
be?
dynamics in this town, this 17-person community? That's what I'm curious about.
It's real gangster to have your dad be the mayor and the police chief.
Well, and what I don't know is, do they live there? Does the father and the daughter? Because in some towns you have to live there. Well.
I'm so curious.
maybe
I want to
not.
go wander around Lakeside again and try to figure out the other residential
Why don't you
situation.
commit a crime and see what happens?
You know what's funny is also like the town of, I feel like there's police right. Is it Sheridan? There's something that's right there that always catches people. It's not hard to commit crimes over there and get caught. But.
Well, we got comments on our story, just speeders. For a
Yes.
long time, they would just operate speed traps on Sheridan.
I got
so that
pulled
they
over
could
by one of those.
Up the ante. Kind of like Morrison's been doing right now with their speed traps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to leave that story there. We'll be watching that, see what happens as that that
Maybe
litigation
Lakeside will clean
continues.
up its act and it'll have a great, I don't know, next 100 and something years.
I will say
Here's
they
to that.
deny that the South Park creators are going to buy them. We did ask.
Oh, I mean,
that's the rumor.
Everyone's
can
got
you
a price.
but also can you imagine Trey and Matt being like, are you kidding me? Do you know what we just went through? Like,
Right.
what? No.
They are definitely not. If they ever were interested, they're not now.
Yeah, they need to figure out how to monetize their
They need to figure out how
existing
to fully
IP.
open their restaurant. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to talk about scooters. All right, we're back. It has been 6 years since e-scooter companies dropped off fleets of scooters onto the streets of Denver unannounced, and city officials are still struggling to figure out how to handle them. The latest effort comes from City Council member Chris Hines, who represents downtown. He's got a new idea. Patty, what is Councilman Hines proposing?
Well, I had talked to him about this a couple of months ago, and he said people were getting on board on council just because they were so frightened. Literally, I mean, someone like him who's in a wheelchair, that these scooters
Go so fast
and come out of nowhere. So more regulation is what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think he wants to go after the scooter vendors themselves, right? The companies and not the riders, because I think initially they were trying to put some accountability on the riders in terms of ticketing folks and things, or I don't know. There was something that council wanted to do, but the companies wouldn't divulge the information of their customers. So I think what Hines is proposing is to go after the scooter companies themselves to regulate some of these issues.
Bree, we've heard the narrative. We've heard the debate. You know, some people love scooters. Some people hate scooters, think they're a menace. Where do you think Denverites are at with this conversation?
I mean, the amount of folks that use them, I think Denver really probably likes them. To me, I'm not a scooter rider myself, but also I have a car. And I know from my friend's experience, like My old roommate didn't have a car, and those scooters were great because also he worked late in bars. And so he was a DJ, gets off at 3 a.m. He can grab a scooter and get home really fast and not have to deal with like the hassle of getting an Uber or dealing with other, drunk people, things like that. So I can see Denver really liking scooters, but I do also, the struggle is the struggle from the beginning. Where do they go? How are they regulated? Everybody needs to be on the same page. And I feel like when we talked to Jill Okentorey from Streets Partnership, it was something similar. It was like, she was just kind of like, well, can we just figure out how to coexist, where to park? Because the parking is a big issue. And I'm thinking about with Councilman Hines using a wheelchair. If you're a person who uses a wheelchair and someone has parked a scooter on the sidewalk, you can't get out of your wheelchair and move it. I mean, sometimes these things are literal obstacles for folks. And then also just the safety issue. I'm a person wandering around with a 3-year-old walking on the street who's not paying attention to where he's going. I'm holding his hand. But if someone whizzes by me on a scooter, that's scary. And so I think Denverites like them, but I would guess that most of us also just want to be safe. So where's how do we balance these out? How do we regulate them? And how do we make sure that they can coexist not only with pedestrians, but also with cars? Because they need to be safe too.
Speaking of the safety concerns, this is a detail from the Westward story, Patty, you all had. Apparently, orthopedic injury admissions at Denver Health increased by 540% in the 2 years after e-scooters were introduced in the city compared to the 2 years before.
Yeah, there is no question that people are injuring themselves on these scooters, whether it's because they're not obeying the law and they might be running into a car or another obstacle, or it's just they're intrinsically dangerous. I will say they're a necessary evil right now in this town, because if you're trying to go to Rhino, where I was on First Friday, there is no parking. Ubers usually and Lyfts often aren't the answer at all. It is full of scooters, and that's great because you can't get there otherwise. You can't park. And if you're going to have these First Fridays and you're going to have these creative districts, I mean, I don't know if they were on the street in Santa Fe, but I don't think so.
I don't know if
that would be
I didn't see
strippers on scooters. But just to get to Santa Fe, anywhere near it is really, really tricky. And the same goes for Rhino. So scooters are working with our parking problems, as long as we can figure out how scooter riders can be safe and how they can coexist with everyone else.
I saw a guy on a scooter with a motorcycle helmet on, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Because my mom, everyone knows, is an ER nurse, and she sees gnarly scooter accidents all the time. Not to say she doesn't see car accidents as well, things like that. But there is no protection in the speed that they go. And it's not even just hitting a car or something. It's like you could hit a little blip in a flagstone sidewalk and your face is toast. So...
Well, last question then, I guess, going forward here. Chris Hines has this proposal. The city is in year 3 of a 5-year contract with these e-scooter vendors. The current rules are, we'll post a link in the show notes because I didn't know some of these. Apparently, scooters must be ridden in bike lanes or on the right-hand side of roadways. Apparently, you're not allowed to ride 2 people on a scooter, which I see constantly.
I do too.
That seems like the number one way young
scary.
people go on dates right now,
sure.
as far as I've seen. But anyway, so year 3 of 5, Patty, do you think there's any chance we'll see serious changes?
Oh, I do think with Chris Hines leading the charge, we will see some changes, because just as people need to know rules of the road for bicycles, and these are fairly similar, the e-scooter rules, people need to know them, and there has to be enforcement of them. The sidewalk is just the dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And much more dangerous than bikes, I think, on sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because bikes don't go that fast. I don't know. I don't feel like if I encounter a cyclist on the sidewalk, they're usually not going that fast. But I think it would just the public education component of everyone knowing where the scooters are supposed to be, not just the scooters, but the cyclists, the pedestrians, and drivers.
And then just the politeness of where you put them when you're done.
Yes, that too.
Not all of
too.
them.
But also, I just really like focusing on these companies that decided to dump these things in our city and
sucked.
They need more accountability, and I hope that that's what council is pushing for, because it ends up putting it on the people, and we can't make those decisions. The companies do, and the city needs to.
All right, well, listeners, we want to hear from you. Where are you at with scooters right now? Are you increasingly curious about finally trying one out, like I am? Never have ridden one?
Yeah, never will.
Wanting to? No. Or do you think they're a menace? Let us know what you think. Call in, leave us a voicemail, send us a text, 720-500-5418. Again, that's 720-500-5418. All right, well, that's the show for today. Thanks so much, you two, for joining me. Bree, Patty, always a pleasure.
My pleasure. See you at Lakeside.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Before we say goodbye, we've got one more thing for you today we're very excited to share. It's a segment from our sponsors at the National Organization of Youth Safety about a very cool conference that you're invited to attend in Denver this fall.
Hi, I'm CityCast Content Director Andrea Salenzi. Did you know that the National Organization for Youth Safety is based in Denver? That's because if any city is going to reimagine traffic safety, it's going to happen right here. Leading the way is Jacob Smith. He's the Executive Director for the National Organization for Youth Safety, aka NOYS. Welcome.
Hi.
So the National Organization for Youth Safety, you go by NOYS.
Yes, we make noise all the time.
Tell us about this organization and what brought you here to Denver.
Yes, so NOYS was founded, interestingly, by the U.S. Department of Transportation. So as this really cool space where national organizations could come together to create best practices for addressing teen driver safety. After a 25-year-old history, or close to 25 years, for the past 2 years, the organization has strategically shifted our resources to truly center young people. And so that's who we are today. We're an organization that pays, we equip, we built the capacity of marginalized youth to address transportation equity and mobility justice. So you're like, why is this national organization moving from DC, the place where national organizations should be, to Denver? And made this big move to Denver because Denver is popping with the funding, with the opportunity for innovative transportation strategies and solutions, opportunities, innovative projects related to transportation and climate environmental justice. And so we want to position ourselves to support these efforts and allow young people to see that they can have an active role in transforming their transportation system.
You're hosting the largest youth-led transportation equity and mobility justice convening this fall. It is free for Colorado residents. In broad terms, what is hashtag NYTEC 2024?
Yes. NYTEC 2024, this September. Ultimately, you can say transportation equity, mobility justice. We have a whole list of themes throughout the conference, but ultimately we want people to reimagine and have a role in the freedom to move. This conference, we were so grateful that as a national organization, we've been partnering with Colorado Department of Transportation, who's the host sponsor, but also Lyft, Denver Streets Partnership, Colorado Department of Public Health, ultimately all the players, RTD, CDOT, the folks who are actually going to be at the forefront of designing our transportation system now and for forever. It's a really uniquely curated conference that is for anyone of all ages, but 90% of those folks are young people, 15 to 29. And we want it to be for folks to have fun. There's going to be drag queens. There's going to be U.S. DOT officials, environmental justice folks, dancers, truly the freedom to move. Why come to a conference and be sitting at a table and you don't have the freedom to move?
So who are you excited to see speak, perform? What panels do you think will be the most spicy?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is the opening, which is featuring all U.S. DOT former senior advisors. So it's a panel discussion that's really okay, let's start off, if we want an equitable transportation system, who are the folks who actually created these plans? What do we do right? What do we do wrong? And so the entire conference is so unique in that we have folks who are creating policies around car crash testing, around building equitable transportation systems, all this great stuff that you all can come and get to know about.
So what are you hoping the attendees are going to leave with? What do you want them to do after they leave a conference like this?
Yeah, so for Colorado, it's hey, people are looking at you all. People are looking at the awesome projects that are happening, which attendees will have the opportunity to see these projects that are happening around the city. But I think it's how are we ensuring that Coloradoans have the knowledge and the skills and the network to actually provide input, whether that's for 5 minutes or whether that's they want to join a community meeting with Denver Streets Partnership, but really shifting the power from these traditional modes to people who are using our transportation system.
And then what's next for NOYS after NYTEC 2024?
NYTEC actually will be in Denver for the next 3 years. As a national organization, we want to truly ensure that we are shifting our funding and prioritizing investments for meaningful change in Denver. So I think the national convening will continue, but we are launching a Colorado BIPOC Youth Transportation Equity Fellowship. So I think nonprofits have a ton of language, we always have 20 words, but Ultimately, this program is an opportunity for young people to be paid $30 an hour to develop hyperlocal interventions in Denver addressing transportation equity. So really putting the resources, putting the funding and the opportunities for Colorado folks to actually engage in this work and not just come to a convening and not know the next steps.
Jacob, thanks for being here.
Yes.
Again, the largest youth-led convening on transportation equity and mobility justice is coming up September 20th and 21st. It is free for Colorado residents. Check out noise.org to learn more. That's NOYS.org. And we'll have a link for you in the show notes.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell a resident of the city of Lakeside about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then.